Welcome back, folks, to WWE Network and Chill. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and right here on WWE Network and Chill, I break down all the original programming that I watch on the WWE Network. And of course, for the entirety of the show so far, we've been breaking down Breaking Ground, no pun intended, as seen on the WWE Network Season 1. And today we're talking about Episode 8, Season 1 of the show. So the last episode left off with Triple H talking to then NXT Women's Champion Bayley and Sasha Banks. Both were very trepidatious, both were very hesitant, both very nervous about what he was about to say, because typically, when you get met with a meeting from Triple H or Canyon Ceman or whoever, it's not typically good news. But in this case, it was amazing news for both Bayley and Banks, who were told by Triple H that they would be main eventing the next TakeOver Special, TakeOver Respect, for the Women's Championship in the first ever 30-minute Iron Women match. And obviously, to say both women were, over the moon would be a massive understatement. They broke down in tears, so happy for each other. And obviously, Bayley and Banks, anyone who knows them well, knows and is well aware that they are the biggest wrestling fans that are wrestlers in the WWE right now. So that meant the world to both of them. So a really cool note to kick off the show with. And then from there, we had Scott Hall visiting the rookies at the Performance Center, giving them a few, tips and whatnot. And the two people that he talked to that stood out to me were first Baron Corbin, which I thought was pretty funny. And Scott Hall watches the product. He pays attention to the product, and it showed when he was talking to Baron Corbin. He said, "You used to be a babyface, right?" And he said, "Yep." So the fans finally smarted up to you and said, "Well, that guy's an asshole." And Corbin's like, "Yep," he kind of laughed it off. And it was pretty funny. So, Scott Hall knows what he's talking about, and, Corbin really took that advice to heart, and he's using it to improve his own character and ring ability. He talked to Apollo Crews a little later on during the promo class they were doing in front of Scott Hall. So Apollo Crews cuts this pretty good promo, but it's just that, a promo. And I know that sounds confusing for a promo class. That's what they're supposed to be doing. But Scott Hall approaches Apollo Crews and says, and William Shatner, as the narrator, relays this information as well. He says, as exceptional as the in-ring ability of Apollo Crews is, his mic skills are what need work. So Scott Hall approaches Apollo Crews and says, it felt like a promo to me that didn't really feel like it was coming from you. Is that really how you talk? And Crews said no. And he was saying, it just got to come from you, because I know how you talk, and to me, kind of seems like a fake tough guy. Maybe the casual viewer sees you as intimidating, like, oh, stay away from him. But to me, you feel like just another guy. It feels fake to me. So Crews's mic skills have really come, not a long way, but they have improved since that period of time. To see that promo that he was cutting on this episode of Breaking Ground, of the promos that he's cutting today, which isn't many of them, but to see his backstage encounters with Sheamus and the interviews he does here and there, he really has kind of taken that advice to heart, and it really feels like Apollo Crews, and he is who he is. Apollo Crews is whoever he is in real life, that he's just happy to be there, and he's got the smile on his face and whatnot, and that's exactly who Apollo Crews is and is all about. So it's cool to see how that advice is translated from that period in time to now. So Sami Zayn, we get the first look at Sami Zayn on Breaking Ground. I wish it was a little earlier on in the season, but we still get a bit of a look at Sami Zayn throughout this episode. I would say he is the central focus of this show. And now he's rehabbing a shoulder injury. They showed the footage of him, his shoulder popping out. It's not really that gruesome, but obviously, if you can recall, before his match with John Cena on the May 4th, 2015 edition of Monday Night Raw for the United States Championship in his hometown of Montreal, Canada, he's waving his arms all around. He's super pumped up. He's super energetic. And his shoulder pops out when he throws his hands up in the air. And it's something as simple as that gets Sami Zayn injured and puts him on the shelf for almost 7 months. And Sami Zayn, as optimistic of a person that he is really nervous about getting back in the ring. People have told him, from what he said, his friends and family even told him that you may never come back from this. I don't think you'll be able to go through this. And Sami Zayn was really willing to prove them wrong. And after going through the injury, months later, by this point, it's maybe September, October, he's really starting to think, he's really skeptical regarding his return. Will this shoulder ever be 100%? Will I be able to get back to where I was? And that's another thing, too. When this kind of shit happens, especially at a point where Sami Zayn going into the match was the biggest match of his career up to that point to date with John Cena for the U.S. title, was that going to be his main roster call-up? And it probably would have been, because only 2 weeks later did Kevin Owens get called up in a segment with John Cena. So that's probably the direction they were going with Sami Zayn before he got hurt. So it really is disheartening to kind of have, to kind of see your career come crashing down in a matter of moments or something so simple. It's not like he botched a move or anything. He simply threw his hands up in the air and his shoulder popped down. It's not like he's injury prone. I don't think Sami Zayn's been injured all that much in WWE in the time that he's been here, maybe even not on the independent scene either. So it really is, a very scary thing. And we hear some words from Tyler Breeze, and Sami Zayn can feel like he can relate to him, not character-wise or polar opposites in that respect, But in regards to that, they're both, Canadian boys just fulfilling their dream and becoming pro wrestlers for WWE. And that Breeze, regardless of everything that he's been through and having been in developmental for 4 or 5 years, remains optimistic. And, Sami Zayn can feel like he can relate to that and uses that as inspiration. So that's pretty cool. So we get a bit more focus on Tino Sabbatelli in this episode. I alluded to him in episode 7 review in regards to where he's at, how his progress is doing. He asked Ty Dillinger for a few pointers in regards to his entrance. So in this episode, he gets his first live event match against none other than Apollo Crews. It might have been his first or second match. It might have been his second, but his second ever live event match, and it's against the number 1 contender to the NXT Championship. And as he's talking to his brother about it and his friends, they talk about how it's obviously a huge opportunity for Sabbatelli, for Tino, and that they see him and, they have this much faith in him that they're going to put him in the ring with the number 1 contender to the title. So it's not only faith for Apollo Crews, obviously, but enough faith for Tino to put him in there with an established worker such as Apollo Crews. So he's got his dress all picked out, and when I say dress, I mean business attire, his suit, and he plays the part, he looks the part, he drives the part, as Matt Bloom says, but when he gets in that ring, he rushes things, he's just got to slow it down, and it's those simple things that if he fucks up, it's not going to fly in the main roster. During the match, it's not that bad of a match. He gets a few, gets some good feedback early on from the lockup and a few things that he does, but it's halfway through that he botches. I think Crews he looks to jump over him, but no, that spot was fine. It was when he hit the drop kick and Sabbatelli, spinned out of it by accident. And had he not done that, had he connected with Apollo Crews, they could have really hurt each other in doing that one move, and it was all Tino's fault. That and the little things. I forgot what the other thing was. It was that botch and what was it? Oh, the strikes that Matt Bloom didn't like. The strikes looked weak, and Vince McMahon is a big proponent of, as anything else, of punches. If they don't look real, if men don't throw, men throw punches, is what Vince says. And if men don't throw punches, then you're not a WWE superstar. So that's a big thing that Matt Bloom picks up on and really kind of lays into Sabbatelli after the match. And it's even more disheartening for Sabbatelli because he feels like the match came off good. And you just got to be really open to criticism. I probably would be in the same position. I feel like despite the flaws, it would still be a good match, but you got to really focus. And despite all the good, you got to take that in as well, but you got to focus on those negatives because those are the things that are going to kill you in the end. You got to focus on that shit so you can improve upon it and only get better. So we get some 2 cents from Matt Bloom, and he kind of, reinforces that feedback when Baron Corbin says the same thing, and they're kind of on the same level, both coming from an NFL background. They have a lot in common, so he kind of takes those words to heart from Baron Corbin and looks like improve upon that going forward. So a bit of a learning moment for Sabbatelli on his road to becoming a WWE superstar. Dana Brooke, we get more of a focus on her in this episode as well, as we see her training early on with, I thought it was Liv Morgan. I don't think it was Liv Morgan, but I know for sure Billie Kay was there, the Aussie girl she refers to her as, and kind of taking her under her wing, helping her train, whatever. And then she's working with Nia Jax a little later on, Nia Jax is working on her gear, which I'll talk about momentarily as well. Dana Brooke, she gets hurt later on at the end of the episode. She gets hurt in a training match with Asuka, and she hits her head really, really hard on the back of the mat, and we're not exactly sure what to think, which I'll talk about at the end of the episode, because that was the cliffhanger going into episode 9. What happened to Dana Brooke? Is she concussed? Is she seriously hurt? How long is she going to be out? So that was the big ending for this episode. Other 2 things I forgot to mention. Mojo Rawley throws a get hyped party, which lasts only like 10 seconds. They only show 10 seconds of the party before it gets non-PG according to Mojo, so we don't really see too much of that, but that's just Mojo being Mojo. We also see Nia Jax working on her gear for her impending debut in NXT, getting some pointers from her seamstress, from her whatever it is, from whatever her title is. Hugo Knox, I believe his name is, and one of the other developmental guys, and she's got her good guy friends giving her pointers on, what she's working with in regards to her attire, so she's getting ready for her big debut. But like I said, to close off the episode, Dana Brooke's supposed injury. We find out more about that in episode 9 of Breaking Ground, so I'll talk about that in my next review right here on WWE Network and Chill. So until then, guys, be sure to follow me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant, on Facebook at facebook.com/Graham.Gston.Matthews, and right here on YouTube by liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. All support is amazingly appreciated. If you haven't already, check out all the other episodes of WWE Network and Chill, and beyond Breaking Ground, what will I be reviewing? Probably 24, the Brooklyn special on NXT. I'm really looking forward to watching that again. I kind of want to talk about that. So I look forward to reviewing that right after Breaking Ground. And then beyond that, maybe season 1 of Total Divas I'm looking at. There's a lot of episodes of Total Divas on the network, so I might just break down season 1 for now. And beyond that, maybe Legends House. I want to rewatch that. So there's a lot of different content I'm looking forward to rewatching and reviewing for you guys right here on WWE Network and Chill going forward. So until next time, guys, I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch you folks down the road.